Hello, Misfits, and welcome. In this episode, I want to talk all about the Pathfinder Beginner Box, and I kind of want to compare it to the 5e starter set just a little bit, because I'm sure a lot of you are more familiar with that box, and I want you to kind of know how this one compares, what you might be getting instead, what you might be getting in addition to what you expect, and things like that. So that's kind of what this video is going to be about today. Also, I know there's a ton of D&D drama happening. There's a lot of new information about the OGL stuff. The draft went out the other day. I don't want to make a full video on that. This stuff just sort of makes me frustrated, and so I don't really want to make a whole video dedicated to that. But if you want to hear what some of my thoughts are, I'll talk about it at the end of this video. Okay, so if that's what you're looking for, go there. But for the rest of you, let's dive into this box. So there are some things that I just sort of want to go through. I want to go through what's included for the GM or DM, what's included for the player, how user-friendly it is, things like that. So I guess what I will do first is just sort of open this up. I have not really looked at this much. I've glanced at like the very, very top stuff, but I haven't really dived into it. I kind of just want to do that with you guys, if that's okay. So here we go. So first things first, you've got a beautiful box here. There's lovely, lovely art, all that. And on the back here, it just sort of says a couple things about kind of what's in it. A 72-page Hero's Handbook, which presents the rules for playing the game and creating characters, including their skills, spells, and gear. It also includes an 88-page Game Master's Guide containing an introductory adventure, over 200 pages of monsters, rules for building your own adventure, and dozens of wondrous magic items. It contains 4 pre-made heroes, so you can jump right into the action, and 6 blank character sheets for creating your own characters from scratch. It also includes over 100 character and monster pawns to use on the full-color double-sided adventure map. So that's pretty cool. It also has 4 game reference cards to help players remember their actions, and it has a complete set of polyhedral dice, including a D20, D12, D10, D8, D6, and D4. So, it tells you exactly what's included here on the back, and this sort of little become a hero thing is just sort of like kind of your introductory sort of, this is what a TTRPG is, sort of, but like real bare bones, just like, are you interested in being a hero? Well, check out this box. So that's kind of what it is, but let's get inside. There we go. All right. So, at the very, very, very top, you have the bases for your tokens. So they're all little like cardboard cutout guys, and you stick them in these little like bases, which is pretty cool. And then you also have the dice set, and I like that these are color coded. And we'll get into that just a little bit more later, but you have a lovely little package of dice. They are super basic, but they are what they are. Oh, I just noticed the D4. The D4 is like the numbers on the bottom version instead of numbers at the corner. And I'm used to the other one, so that's interesting. But that's like so nitpicky. Ignore that. The really, really cool thing about this is at the very top, once you move that stuff aside, you have a page that says, read this first. And I think that is super helpful. It just very basically explains what Pathfinder is. Pathfinder is a cooperative tabletop role-playing game, also called an RPG, of fantasy adventure. Grab some friends to play the heroes in an adventuring party, go on a quest, explore mysterious environments, battle dangerous monsters, find treasure, and tell a story together. So it just sort of tells you what Pathfinder is, and then it's sort of like, alright, look at what applies to you and start there. It has a if you're on your own versus if you have a group. And I love that it has this, like the if you're on your own. Because a lot of GMs or DMs might want to sort of test things out and learn about it a little bit before they get thrown into managing a table and trying to explain to the table what to do. And the fact that they have a whole section for if you're on your own, you're by yourself trying to get into this, I just think that's super great. So basically they have an adventure, a solo adventure that you can try out. And I think that's fantastic. It explains that it's, the game is designed for group play, but you can play this adventure on your own. It's in the handbook, and you can go through that, and it'll teach you the basics of the game. That's something that I definitely am going to do so I can get used to it. And I don't know, is that like... I don't know if that's interesting content to like film myself doing the solo adventure. I guess let me know. I suppose I could just do it and film myself doing it, and if it's really, really boring, I just won't put it up. I don't know. And then it's got the if you have a group, and it sort of divides the if you have a group section into different little things. If you have a group and you want to start right away, it kind of points you in the direction of the pre-made characters. It's got a if you have a group and you want to make your own character, it points you to where you need to start there. And then if you want to be the game master, it kind of tells you where to go if you want to get started with that. So that's really, really nice. I also like that it gives you the page numbers and things for all of that. I think that's super useful. And on the back, it's just further clarification on what's included. It shows you what they look like. So you aren't super confused by anything. So I think it's very, very, like beginner friendly. It's very hand-holdy in its explanations, but I think that is needed and something that I want. We'll get into the 5e stuff here in a second, but I think that's useful. All right, let's move on. The next thing in the box are these cards. So we've got one side is conditions, and it sort of lays all of that out, explains what they are, how they affect you. It even tells you the page number in the handbook for further explanation and clarification. I think that is fantastic. Again, I hate when they don't tell you what page number things are on. Because then I have to go, like, rifle through the glossary or the table of contents and try to figure out where I need to go. Just tell me the page number so I can go there and not waste time flipping through a book. I think that's great. And then on the other side is, like, a player reference card, and it basically tells you what you can do on your turn. And it kind of explains a few things like critical successes, critical failures, just regular successes and failures, things like that. It just sort of explains everything out, and I think that's super useful. I definitely want to make sure all of my players have one of these when we start. It's sort of like really, really nice board games these days will have like a what do you do on your turn kind of card, and this is basically that, but for Pathfinder, and I just love that. I think that's so helpful, so handy. So I will definitely be using that a lot, because I think some of the biggest changes are just sort of in how actions work and how conditions and bonuses work. I've noticed that is a pretty key difference between 5e and Pathfinder. So having this stuff laid out is pretty useful. Yeah, and you get 6 of these cards, so I'm definitely gonna have to track down a few extra because I have 7 players, but that's okay. And next we have heroes. Yeah, so we have our heroes, our pre-made heroes, and we also have their character sheets inside, which is really nice. This is handled really, really well. On the back, it sort of like gives you their backstory, which is cool. And on the front, it's sort of like tells you what class they are, and it's like, is this the class you're looking for? It says, play a fighter if you want to fight on the front lines, use the best weapons and armor, react quickly to enemy actions. So it just sort of gives you a rundown of what the class does, so that you know immediately if that's something you're interested in. And then it's got the whole character sheet laid out here. Okay, and this is why the color-coded dice is cool. So if you're brand new to using like a 20-sided dice, like a D20 system, and you're not familiar with all of these different types of dice, it has them coded by color so that it's really, really easy to know which dice is which. If you're running a brand new person through this game, they might not know what a D12 is. You know, they might not know what that looks like. But you can just say, all right, well, grab the blue D12, and they will know what that is. They can grab it quickly, and you can sort of teach them what these dice look like, and kind of make that process a little easier for them. So that's great. Yeah, and it's got these little like letters by the different sections, and then off to the side it has the letter again and then the actual explanation. So it's like the A section is for ancestry. Off to the side it talks about ancestry, and it tells you like how that affects your character. You have extra hit points from being a human ancestry. So that's really, really cool. And they've got that for all of the pre-made characters. So we've got the rogue. Play a rogue if you want to. Sneak up on foes to deal more damage. Steal things without being seen. Excel at a variety of skills. They also give you a cleric. And you get a wizard. So you've got 4 of sort of the standard classes there. Yeah, I almost wish that they had more classes, but I do understand that like 4 players is a much more typical group size. I kind of wish they just had like a couple extra, just in case, but that's okay. And I think the classes they give you are actually really, really good. You've got your like typical spellcaster wizard, you've got your melee, up close, sort of tank fighter, you've got your sneaky, stealthy person, and then you've got your classic support. So that's really good. So that's the pre-made characters. And then what's next? Hero's Handbook. So this is basically like your player's handbook, and that's what they will be relying on. Got the table of contents. It gives you examples of play, tells you how to get started. It also runs you through very basically how to create a character, which is super useful. And it goes through playing the game. I like that it has examples of play. I noticed this when I was looking through the core rule book. It literally, almost like a scene in a movie, it like goes through an entire scenario of like playing in Pathfinder, where there's like a player, a couple players, and a GM, and it's like taking you through like, hey, I want to find out if I'm going the right way. And it's like, GM, sure, why don't you roll a survival check to see? And then it lists like what type of roll they make, what die they roll to get that number, what they add to that based on what they have on their character sheet. And it takes you through like a whole scenario, which is awesome. I had never seen anything like that before. So to see that, like that can be really, really useful to a new person that just has no idea what's happening and how this works. So I think that's really, really cool. I can see how that would be super useful to someone. Like if you're not able to watch somebody else play, and if just reading the rules doesn't really do it for you, kind of just like reading how a scenario would play out is really going to help that click. I also like that it takes you through character creation. not a lot of... well, let's just say that the 5e starter set doesn't do that. At least the Lost Minds one doesn't do that. There's nothing about character creation in that. They expect you to also go and buy the player handbook. That's the only place where you're gonna learn about character creation. So the fact that the beginner box takes you through that is great. That means you don't have to go buy, like, 4 books just to run the game and potentially run some other stuff afterwards. If you just want to start real simple, this box is literally all you need, which is great. So we've got the player handbook, and all of its nifty doodads. Right after you get to the player handbook in the box, you get to the blank character sheets. I don't think the 5e set comes with blank character sheets. I feel like we had to print those off from online. But they've got the blank character sheets, the color-coded ones, which is super great. Everything is labeled very, very clearly. I like that. And they give you 6? Yeah, they give you 6 character sheets. So same number of character sheets as those reference cards from earlier, which is nice. When I run my players through the beginner box, I'm probably going to use the pre-made characters and then just add a couple that I make, or me and them sit down and make. And that's probably what we will do for that. So you get character sheets, and then we have the Game Master's Guide. So then you also get the Game Master's Guide. I should also point out that these guides are pretty substantial. They're not like huge. They're not like overwhelmingly huge, but they're pretty sturdy, and they're very well made. So I'm really into that. Okay, the inside cover of the Game Master's Guide is the numbered, like, labeled map for, I guess, the adventure. So that's good to know that that's right there. Table of contents for the Game Master's Guide. We've got the adventure. It looks like the adventure only takes you through 2 levels. But honestly, that's probably fine. By level 3 and 4, I feel like you generally have a pretty decent grasp on how a game is run. There's a section for preparing an adventure as a game master. There's a character creation section in the Game Master's Guide. There's a whole section about game sessions, supplies, exploration, encounters, downtime, how to handle XP, treasure, difficulty classes. I like that there's a section for that. That's pretty cool. It also has a whole section about building adventures, which is really cool. And environments, hazards. I mean, basically this is like it's like a SparkNotes DMG, which is really, really cool. It's not just about the adventure. Actually, the section about the adventure itself is probably one of the smallest sections. The rest is about tools to help you understand the game and continue after this this small little adventure. And then it also goes through creatures, and then it has a section on this campaign setting. So really, a lot of awesome information here. Really, really useful to having like longevity in your sort of Pathfinder playing experience. So I really like that. Oh, and on the back of the Game Mastery Guide is like a quick rules reference. That's awesome. That's really, really good. What was on the back of the player's book? Same thing. Is it the same? Yeah. Quick rules reference. That's really, really nice. I'm glad that that's there. I think that's super useful. They even have a section on like moving on a grid and how like diagonals work. Wow. I'm kind of blown away, guys. I'm not gonna lie. Just because, like, none of this information was really easy to find when I was getting into DMing. And then they give you, like, a full-on, really nice, glossy, beautiful map. The kind of stuff that you normally have to, like, pay some Patreon to get. It's kind of huge, guys. And it's double-sided. Oh my god. Good lord. Wow. I didn't think it would come with that, if I'm being completely honest. I know it said it had a map. I just assumed it was going to be like, here's a small, not-to-scale map, and you then have to draw it with a dry erase marker on your own grid. I didn't realize it was like a full-size, gridded, like, glossy, pristine map. That's insane. Wow, this is definitely worth the cost. All right, and I think next we've got the minis. So yeah, the little, like, stands, they're like little plastic stands, and you pop out these cardboard guys to stick them in there. And you get a lot of monsters in here. I'm kind of wondering if you encounter all of these, because I just noticed that there's a basilisk here. Are level 2 characters gonna fight a basilisk? I don't know. Pathfinder basilisk might be a little different. We've got our heroes. Ooh, I really like that they have like variants. So if you decide to be like a human fighter, they have like the male version, but they also have like a female version if that's what you want to do. I really like that. Cool. Oh, and they have like for different races too. So I guess if you want to, you know what, in the character creation section, they only had like a very limited, I think it was just elf, human, and dwarf, so that you aren't overwhelmed by all the options, because there are a lot of Pathfinder character options. I bet this is like every variant of those options. That's really cool. Really cool. Yeah, you've got the fighter in all the races, you've got the rogue in all the races, and the cleric and the wizard. That's really useful. I really like that. And then it also has, like, literally the 4 pre-made characters. Great. That's fantastic. I know I'm kind of, like, losing my mind just a little bit. I'm just sort of blown away. What is an elemental brine shark? I want to find out what that is immediately, and I want to put it in my current game. This little guy. He looks fun. Whoa, the art here is also just beautiful. Oh, there's a mimic. Oh, I'm excited. Skeletal giant. Does that name sound redundant to you? Skeletal giant. Like, if it's a skeleton, I think I'm gonna assume that it's skeletal. Interesting. Who am I to judge? Alright, so we've got all of our minis here. Really beautiful art. Like, are they your, like, I don't know, expensive plastic minis that you paint? No. But you've got beautiful art here, and this is, like, really easy to do, and it's gonna be way better than just, like, I don't know, nothing, or just using, like, pennies or random, like, leftover dye or something. Like, you've got, like, a really substantial sort of token here, and this all comes in the beginner box. And then the very last thing, Pathfinder Society. A world of adventure, exploration, and intrigue awaits. Join the Pathfinder Society today. So it's sort of promotional stuff. Oh, and the adventure continues. Want more Pathfinder? Keep playing with additional adventures suited for the beginner box, or jump into the full version of the Pathfinder game. So if you want to keep playing with the beginner box rules, they have, like, an anthology of adventures set in the same sort of place. And so you can just take your sort of characters and campaign from the beginner box and just keep going. And they start at level 2. So this was just level 1 and 2. This starts at level 2, and you can level them up to 4th level using the rules within. That's actually, I might really look into that. Because I know that I'm going to really want to sit and play with this for a while and make sure... and make sure that my players are really comfortable with it before I do, like, a really big campaign. So I'm definitely going to be looking into that. I might just, like, rename or, like, lightly reskin some stuff to fit my setting a little bit more. And then it talks about the core game. So if you want to jump into the absolute full version of Pathfinder and make anything you want, it tells you about the core rulebook, the advanced player's guide, the bestiary, and... or is it bestiary? I've heard people say both. Whatever. And then the game master's guide. So these are kind of like the 4 core things. I have the bestiary and the core rulebook, and I have like a digital version of the other 2. So I've got a lot of that already. I've been trying to like just sort of get my hands on everything I can. Alright, so that is the beginner box. That's everything in it. There is a lot. There is a lot in there. I just noticed there's even more on the outside. It has information about what the bestiary is. Like what their world guide is, what the core rulebook's about. They have, like, packed this stuff with information. That's kind of insane. There's so much in this. Okay, pause for 1 second. Let me put all of this back in the correct order, and then let's go through the 5e box. Let's talk about the 5e starter set. Specifically, Lost Minds of Phandelver. This is the starter set that actually I got into Dungeons & Dragons with. I was not the DM. She's now one of my players. If you watch Campaign 2, Emily that plays Isla, she DM'd us and carried us through the beginning process of learning Dungeons & Dragons. And this is actually her starter set, but I got to see her this weekend in person, and she was very gracious to give this to me and let me look through it so I could do this little comparison. She said she wasn't sure if everything was in it. I know it's supposed to be in it, so I'll just take you through it and tell you about it. So, same deal. Big box. They're very similar to size. Ironically, they both feature a green dragon on the front. Pathfinder's box is super glossy and a little bigger, like a little taller. This one is matte and not as tall. On the back, same sort of like, here's your small little spiel about tabletop games. And it tells you what's supposed to be in it. The game components: a 64-page adventure book with everything the Dungeon Master needs to get started, a 32-page rulebook for playing characters levels 1 through 5, 5 pre-generated characters, each with a character sheet and supporting reference material, and 6 game dice. And then it says, when you're ready for even more, expand your adventures with the 5th edition Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monster Manual. So, it has way less in it. There's no tokens, there's no blank character sheets. The books they give you are smaller. You've got a 64-page adventure book for the Dungeon Master to look through versus an 88-page guide for Pathfinder. So there's more stuff to look at for Pathfinder, but it's because they want you to be able to use the stuff in the Pathfinder box for longer. They're not like, all right, well, if you want to do any more, you have to buy the rule book. They're like, no, use this for a while. Like, use it for a substantial amount of time and really get used to it. And then, if you want to broaden your horizons, get the core rule book. So I really like the way they set that out. You get more pre-generated characters with the 5e set, but you don't have any options for making your own, really. Like, it's just not set up for that. No color-coded dice, it's just your standard set, all one color. And there really aren't, like, player materials, like, there's no, like, player handbook. You just get your characters, and that's kind of it. But let's open it up, let's double check, let's go through everything. That is definitely, there's like stuff in here left over from there, and that was like 5 years ago. Like, I think these are my expo markers because it does not come with a gridded map. We bought one to play with it, and we use these to draw stuff. Alright, so I also don't know what rule or what order all of this stuff normally is put in the handbook. Or in the starter kit, so just be aware of that. This has been used, and this was used a while ago, so things have changed. Wow, I'm getting a lot of memories looking through this. Alright, so you start with the Lost Mines book, and you don't open to a table of contents. You don't have, like, a nice, sort of thick, glossy spine. It's way more bare bones. It's more like a magazine. But it's got an introduction for running the adventure, some background on the information, the adventure hook, and then all of these sections are really for parts of the adventure. So one big difference here is the Pathfinder adventure is levels 1 and 2. The 5e adventure is supposed to take you through level 4. So we've got some differences here. Like, weirdly, there's less here, but the adventure is longer. So really, this is like a full-on, like, sort of campaign guide where you've got a section for each location and then, like, subsections for the different events and encounters that can happen in those locations. So that's kind of what's going on there. And then that book has an appendix, some appendices for magic items and monsters. So that's very, very different. Yeah, Interestingly enough, there's no, like, here's the example of play. It's just like, here's an introduction. Here's, like, a paragraph about running the adventure. And here's, like, 2 paragraphs about what a dungeon master is and how to improvise. And then you're just in it. So the other one had, like, several sections for teaching you how to play the game. And this one has, like, a page about how to run the game. And then you're in it. Really interesting. Really, really interesting there. I have thoughts. Alright, then we have the starter set rulebook. Okay, so this is more about how to play. But yeah, it's not really for... it's not really for players, though. It just throws you in it. Okay, there is a small section that's sort of like an example of play, like, the Dungeon Master, the castle stands among the trees, yada yada yada. And then the player, cleric, let's send the rogue up to look ahead. The rogue, I'll look ahead. Alright, make a stealth check or a perception check, and it runs you through that. It's just way shorter. It's just so much less. Yeah, if this is your first time playing Dungeons & Dragons, start by reading the rest of this chapter. It tells you the most important rules you need to play the game. So I guess this is for everyone. It takes you through everything. Okay, it's not bad. It takes you through what each check is and stuff like that. It takes you through combat, all of that stuff. Tells you what happens when you drop to 0. tells you what happens when you hit instant death, talks about travel. So this is like, I guess this is sort of like the rulebook for everybody. So the other one had like a specific rulebook for players, a specific rulebook for the game master, and both of those would include some of the same sections, but they were very much for their own, like, roles. This is for everybody. It's pretty short, but it takes you through the basics. It does not take you through how to create a character at all. That is not included in here. That is not a part of the game. You can play Lost Mines with your own characters. We did that. We created our own characters. We bought the player handbook. We used Lost Mines to get started, and then we took our Lost Mines character and put them in our next campaign. That's what we did. But so you can do that. It's just you're gonna have to buy extra materials in order to do that, and in order to be prepared for that. Normally it comes with dice. I'm actually pretty sure they're in my dice box over here. It's just like a royal blue little set of 6. And then we have our pre-made characters, if I can get them out. You have a fighter, a wizard. Do they even give you names for them? No, you don't. You don't get names. You get a rogue. You get a cleric. And you get another fighter. Yeah, I've heard people talk about this before. It's kind of weird that they give you 2 fighters and they don't give you, like, I don't know, one of the other spellcasters. Like, I find that a little weird. Or just, I don't know, one of the other... There's, like, a bunch of different... I don't know. I just find that an odd choice. 2 fighters. Could have done other stuff. And these character sheets are, I mean, they're what you expect, you know? They're set up the way you would expect them to be set up. And you've got some information on the back about your race, your class, your background, things like that. You don't have any background information. I think they want you to come up with your own background for these pre-made characters. And then, funnily enough, there's like a piece of cardboard, I guess, to fill out the rest of the box so that it doesn't seem as empty as it is. Interesting. So that is the 5e starter set. The other one was like jam-packed of information. This is just like, hey, this is the starter set. You didn't know that? Yeah, there's a lot less information here. So that's kind of something to be aware of. Let's talk price a little bit. So that's probably going to be one of the most immediate differences. The Pathfinder price is $39.99. It's more expensive. That's just how it is. And that's going to be like the key difference here. But as you can tell, there's so much stuff in here. $39.99 is it's about the cost, or I think maybe even a little cheaper than some of their adventure books, depending on what you're getting. It's not a terrible price, and they give you so much stuff in it, and stuff that you can use to continue playing. I mean, you could like just build your own campaign off of some of the stuff they give you here, or at least get started with it, which is pretty cool. The 5e set, the retail price is $23.99, so it's not quite half price, but it is substantially less. But you just aren't getting as much. If you want to do anything more with this, you're gonna have to buy their other stuff. Like, you don't know how to make a character with this set. Like, you just aren't given that information. If you want to learn how to do that, you're gonna have to buy the player handbook. Let's see how much that player handbook costs. I got it right here. Yeah, so if you want to learn how to make your own character, you're gonna have to buy the player handbook, and the player handbook is $49.95. So $49.95 plus $23.99 is more than that Pathfinder beginner box. So that's kind of something to keep in mind there. If you want to go any further with character creation and campaign creation, you're going to have to get ready to then drop like $50 to do that. How much is the DMG? DMG is the same price, so just be mindful of that. That's kind of the thing about D&D. It's a little bit more like we're trying to get as much money from you as possible. I love the game. I will always love the game, regardless of all the drama and stuff, but like that is what it is. It's just it's kind of like the Disney of TTRPGs, you know? Like, we've got so much great memories tied to it gives us that feeling of nostalgia and that warm fuzzy feeling, but at the same time they're trying to like milk us for our money, which, you know, I guess that's just sort of life sometimes, at least these days. So that's something to keep in mind. The core rulebook for Pathfinder is it's pretty pricey, but the core rulebook for Pathfinder is essentially the DMG and the player's handbook in one, but the stuff that they give you in the beginner box is more than what you need to start out. If you start out with the core rulebook, you're gonna be overwhelmed. There's a lot of stuff in there, and it's great information. They pretty much answer almost any question that you could have, but like the stuff in the beginner box, as I had heard and now I know, that's going to set you up for success when getting into the game. So I highly recommend that. Super interesting. I had sort of seen like a kind of a comparison before, but I never really delved into it myself. So it's real interesting to see them back to back like that. The stuff in that beginner box for Pathfinder is just so good. The quality is so good. I'm blown away by that map. It was so nice. Now, am I ever going to be able to get it to lay flat? Probably not, but it's nice. It's a shame that it's a physical map and my players are in 4 different time zones, but I bet they have it. I bet there is a digital version, actually. That's the thing about Pathfinder. Pretty much all of their rulebook stuff is online, and for free. I guess what I should ask you guys is, I am learning a lot about really valuable tools to have at your disposal and to use when getting into Pathfinder. Like, I'm learning a lot about that stuff, and is that something that interests you guys? Like, I'm not an expert at the game. It's going to take a long time before I feel comfortable giving a lot of advice on it, but as I am learning, do you want to learn about the tools that I am just finding incredibly useful? Do you want me to make like a list of like 5 things that are extremely helpful when getting into Pathfinder for the first time? Like, is that something that would appeal to you guys? I guess just let me know about that in the comments below, because I'm just super curious. I want to do what is helpful to you guys. I want to do stuff that you guys are interested in watching and learning about. So I guess just tell me about that there. Well, that kind of concludes the Pathfinder 5e comparison. Let's talk a little bit about this OGL stuff. A lot of new information has come out. They finally released the draft of 1.2. There's been almost like a Twitter war happening that is more than upsetting. And a lot of people have said a lot of things and come up with their own statements. So let me just clarify a couple things. Number 1, our campaign that's currently running, Campaign 2, is a 5e campaign. I am not converting it, okay? We are going to finish the campaign in 5e. We are not going to be using D&D Beyond to do that. I am not going to be buying any additional Wizards of the Coast materials to help do that or flesh out that campaign. I am running it with what I have. I am not going to shorten the story so we end it any sooner. The story is the most important part to me, so we are going to run the campaign as is, finish that out before entertaining the idea of starting a campaign in a different system. So that's that. I am still really interested in learning about Pathfinder. I fully intend to go through the beginner box and run that adventure, maybe run a one-shot or two, maybe do what it was suggesting and take those beginner box characters up to level 4 with that additional adventure setting. Might do that. I fully intend to do that, and some of that might happen while this current campaign is still going. It'll just depend on how much time it takes for me to get used to that and get that up and running and get some of that stuff set up in Roll20. I am obviously frustrated and hurt by all this D&D stuff, but I will always still love the game. It's not going to tarnish my memories that I've made. And, 5e was the first edition of Dungeons & Dragons that I learned and got into, and I loved it, and I do love it, and still love it. I can love Dungeons & Dragons and hate Hasbro. I can love Dungeons & Dragons and be disappointed in Wizards of the Coast. Those are not, mutually exclusive. I can do both those things. And with all this happening, does it mean that I'm turning my back on D&D forever? No. I'm just a little, over the drama and kind of just want a little bit of distance from it. So that's why I'm still entertaining these other systems. But it doesn't mean that, I'll never play D&D again. I still have to finish this campaign, and I'm sure, things change with time. I'm sure things will continue to change with time. And I'm sure we'll play 5e, new 5e stuff again in the future, but it's probably going to be just a long ways away before that happens. In terms of, berating wizards and wizards employees and things like that, I would caution you against that. It's not the employees' fault that this is happening. I imagine that they are just as hurt as we are, if not more. Don't harass them about it. But also, it's been made pretty clear to me that 1.0a is not something that they are going to keep. And I don't think that's an option for them. Whether we really want it to be or not, I think somebody somewhere on that ladder, corporate ladder, has said that we have to get rid of 1.0a. We have to get rid of it. And I think a lot of that has to do with the VTT stuff. There's that hateful and hurtful content thing that's thrown in there. That's possibly a factor, but I think most of it is just about the VTT stuff. They want to make sure that that's included in this new OGL. So they're making a new OGL so that they can incorporate that. So the new one is coming whether we want it or not. So I think the point should be trying to get this new OGL to be as good as it can be and as beneficial to us and our favorite content creators as possible. I just think we need to put our eggs in that basket. But, we're all entitled to our opinions, and that's totally fine. You can think what you want. Your mind is your own. I'm just letting you know what I think. I think 1.0a, its time on this earth is limited. And we need to try everything that we can to make sure that 1.2 is what we want it to be. I strongly encourage you to read through the entirety of 1.2, possibly multiple times, look through the whole thing, and take that survey. And take the survey seriously. Don't, review bomb 1.2. Take it seriously. Point out what you understand, what you don't understand. Leave comments. They have already tweeted out clarifications for some of the sections in that document that people are the most confused about, which shows to me that they are actually looking at these surveys. They are interested in hearing our feedback. They have already shot themselves in the foot and screwed up, and so they are desperate to salvage their relationship with the community. So they're going to look at these surveys. They're going to, at the very least, look at the number scorings you give things. If they're not able to read every comment, I wouldn't be surprised, but they're at least going to look at the number boxes that you check when you're saying whether you understand something, whether you're pleased with it or not. So please take the survey seriously, because that's the only way they can improve what's happening. That's the only way they can try to fix things. Just bombarding them with negative comments, or just sort of like review bombing that survey and not taking it seriously and just sort of doing that. I mean, they're not going to know what to do with that, and we're probably not going to get anything that we're satisfied with by reacting in that way. Just take it seriously, whether you intend to stay with the game or not. Because I think most of us really love D&D. We wouldn't be so mad about this if we hated the game. And if we really love it, then we should want it to be able to continue, so that maybe one day it is better than what's happening right now, and things improve, so that we can come back to it and make new memories with it again. If we allow ourselves to get just so angry that we can't even think straight or speak clearly about it, then we are risking the future of a game that we care about and is so important to us. So I just encourage you guys to try and stay as level-headed about this as possible and take this stuff seriously. Because I don't really care about how this is beneficial to Wizards or Hasbro or D&D Beyond. I care about how this is beneficial to the game of Dungeons & Dragons itself and the continuation of the game. Whether I step away from the game for a little while or not is beside the point. I still want the game to exist, and I still want the game to be there for people in the future, and people in the present now. There are people that are just now getting into the game, and it's a great game. We wouldn't all have played it or be playing it if it wasn't. So just remember that, and just don't be blinded by your hurt and your anger. I get that too. I totally do. Just try really, really hard. And like I said before, it is going to be okay. It absolutely is. But please, if anything I talked about in this video, or even just in this last section, was useful to you, resonated with you, please like and subscribe. If there is anything that you guys want to see from me, please comment below. Please tell me about it. I would love to hear about it. I want to know what you guys need. I want to know what's most beneficial to you guys. I just want to be as helpful as possible, and sort of help build this community that's really starting to grow, guys. 1,500 subscribers and counting. I'm just shocked. I really, that's crazy, because some really good stuff is happening for me and my channel, right as the worst stuff is happening for this game that we love. So it's it's like a roller coaster of emotions. But I really appreciate you guys kind of joining the Misfit family and coming here and finding any of these videos useful. Everybody seems super nice, and just look forward to reading those comments and kind of getting to know some of you guys. Tell me a little bit about yourselves and your table, and just let me know what you guys want to see in the future. But that's all that I have for you today, Misfits. So, with that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, a wonderful week, and I will see you again next time. So, I guess my end thing today is, have you guys started watching season 2 of Legend of Vox Machina? My Ford Henley came in today. I know he wasn't a part of Vox Machina, but he's a critical role character, so leave me alone. But I'm definitely about to go binge it. I've been out of town the past 2 days, at like a teacher convention, basically. Terrible time to leave town, because, like, more drama's been happening. And then, like, the show I was the most excited about dropped, so I'm gonna be getting on that right now. Had to film this first, but yeah, have you been watching? Are you excited? Are you, terrified of some of the stuff that's gonna be in this season? I have already heard some things. As somebody that got into it during Campaign 1, it's been crazy to see some of this stuff get kind of brought to life with animation, so I'm so psyched about all of that. So I'm gonna go run over there to my couch in the other room and start watching. I encourage you to do the same on your own couches if you haven't already done so. But bye, guys. I hope you have a good time. Hope you enjoy the show, and let me know about the Pathfinder stuff. Let me know what or any other video ideas that you guys are interested in. All right? See you later, guys.